Hello, my beautiful friend. I'm Serenity Ravenwolf,
And I am Robert Hubbs.
and together we are Love Heals Humanity. And by the way, that together, that's more than just Robert. That includes you. Yep, you.
All of us, yes.
Absolutely.
And this week's show, another awesome topic. We're talking about choice. And we're talking specifically about the choices that either, define our future and set us free, or the ones that limit our future. And of course, I know we want to be making the choices that help set us free and shape our future. And it's such a challenging topic because
What on earth is that?
as if on cue, the air conditioning system just ran amok. I'm just going to have to fix this. Serenity, I throw it to you for a sec.
Perfect. Oh dear. Tech stuff, right? Um, what I'd like to talk about today, and I know that we are all making empowered choices and the right choices that, support us and drive us forward for the reason that we're here, for the things that feed our soul and bring us joy. None of us would ever, ever, ever be our world's worst abuser. I'm not saying that I've ever been that. Yeah, of course I have. I can laugh about this because so if Robert just goes on and off silent, Robert's traveling, so he's wherever at the moment, and things are different. But what I'd like to know is we find the power of choice when we stop avoiding the negative. So how many of us and we energetically sensitive souls are doing our best because we're harmonious seekers, and peacemakers, trying to avoid the negative things? Not me, not you. No, of course. Maybe somebody you know. Robert, what's your thoughts on that?
So, you know, and speaking of the fact that I am traveling, it's part of all the choices that I've made is when I chose to step out and reshape parts of my life, it's going to come with challenges. It's going to come with, being in a place that is not ideal. And I have to make trade-offs, and I have to sometimes scramble to be on these calls that are really important to me, and to be in the show. And sometimes you're going to get an AC unit that I I didn't know it was going to kick on. And of course, you know, it impacts what we do, but we've made decisions in our lives, all of us, that have positive and negative consequences. And oftentimes we go with the outcome, and we decide that the choice was good or bad because the outcome was good or bad, not because the process was good or bad. And a good process for choice is one that honors who we are, what's important to us, and how we live our lives, or how we, more importantly, want to live our lives every day from this day going forward, because everything that brought us here just gets us here. It's about everything else. That for me is what, when I look at choices and when I think about choices, and I know, Serenity, you and I have spoken at length about how this stuff shapes, is it's about the process of choice, because they're never going to work 100%. But I get to be here when I'm traveling, and whatever choices, whatever hoops I have to jump through, I made it here.
Yeah.
I honored my choice and my commitment, and that to me is more important than something going wrong, an AC unit going wonky, which it's going to do again, folks. I'm sorry. I know it'll happen
You'll
again
just go on
before we're
mute
done
suddenly
here.
mid sentence. It's all good. And we'll go. Yeah, as you're speaking about that, Robert, there's two things I'd like to touch upon about, like, we find the power of choice when we stop avoiding the negative. Well, what's
Yeah.
negative anyway but perception? Good, bad, right, wrong. Is there any good or bad or right or wrong other than that which we perceive? So you can have
Hmm.
two people, for example, that, let's say, watch a car accident right in front of 50 people. And,
Hmm. Yeah.
20, 30 of those people see it as the worst thing on the planet. Even, let's say, the worst case scenario I can think of is someone is hurt, injured, or dies as a result of the accident, and then maybe that goes up to maybe, 90% of the people think that that's bad. But what if your perception wasn't good, bad, right, or wrong. It just is. It happened. And what if that accident is the one thing that is the trajectory for one person or more than one person to put them back on their path to fulfill their purpose? Because as a result of that accident, a relative of even the person that was injured in the accident meets some police officer or a paramedic, yes, paramedic, that ends up being the love of their life, and they end up having, I don't know, 55 children that end up becoming the president of the United States, one of them. Do you know what I mean? What is good, bad, right, wrong? And if avoiding the negative, if negative is more just our perception of what it is, you know, most of us are too keen and eager to go to the what's wrong about this. What's wrong with me? What's wrong about this? And before I go any further, I popped Ron. Hi, Ron Kasdorf. It's nice to know that you are a regular watcher, and I love you. I love you. I love you. It's awesome to see your beautiful face pop up too.
Well, you know, as you were saying, Serenity, who's to say what's right and wrong? And, you know, in that scenario where the most horrendous thing you can think of, where, you know, people are injured, where bad things are happening to someone, we forget that in any given moment around the world, there are terrible things happening all over the place. There's also incredibly good things happening all over the place. And if we can look at a moment and not judge it as good or bad because of an incomplete level of, oh, someone got hurt. Well, okay, that's not what you would want for them. And if we can learn to appreciate so-called bad moments, we can appreciate anything. And if you can't appreciate the difficult moments, the supposedly bad moments, how are you going to ever appreciate the good moments?
Yeah, and this topic touches on a ton of little things that we've touched upon and discussed throughout the weekly calls. You know, back to loving your own heart, stop being your world's worst abuser and loving your own heart and supporting yourself through that. And when you experience something that feels horrific or negative to you, that's the whole, you deserve more love nevertheless. You know, it's, you know, and avoidance is another form of suppression of choice. So what choices are we making? Like pretty much everything is a choice. You know, we had, again, techie issues. We had a choice in that moment. Do we show up or not? You know, it's how does that support the world if I choose to crawl under a rock and disappear? Yeah. Rather than showing up and sharing this with you. You know, and I'd like to invite anyone who's watching now or in the replay to pop your questions in the comments below, because Robert and I, when we're live, love nothing more than to answer your questions, because I know for a fact I'm an answering machine, and I'm really just on the fly have answers for things when people ask questions. But yeah, I struggle more when I'm just got nothing to work with. It's avoidance of another form of choice. So, and that's along the choice of, and I share this with my kids constantly. Inaction is actually an action. You know, when you choose to, and it's still a choice, you know, it's because you, and I know how do you know it's an action? Because you receive a result from it. Probably not the one you're looking for or wanting or desiring or feels comfortable, but you're getting a result, therefore it's a choice. So are we choosing to take action or inaction? Is it a loving action, like what I call the high road? Is it taking the path of love? What would love do, be, or say here? Or are you choosing to take an inaction? Because there are so many of us choosing inaction rather than to be proactive and take action on so many things. Yeah. And then we're disliking and or complaining about the results that we receive from
that. I think you really nailed it, Serenity, is that, you know, the choices, all choices, whatever the outcome, when we base our choices and when we base our actions on loving ourselves more, loving other people more, no action taken in love no choice made in love. And truly, I don't mean superficial. Oh, I love him, so I'm going to do this horrible thing. No, 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 no. I mean truly, to truly act from a place of love. That choice can never be wrong. It
No.
doesn't mean it's the best choice. It doesn't mean that everything works out great. Often it can work out terribly, but that doesn't mean another choice was going to work out less problematically. If you choose, if I choose, if anyone chooses and acts from love,
Mm.
there can be no better choice.
And just to clarify, love, it's not that 59 shades of grey, something that humans have created. It's that expansive love of the...
59 shades of just a, yeah. No, I just not going there. I'm not going there. No, no, that's not love.
No,
Well,
but it's this expansive love of the all there is.
yeah,
And just to share this very important point, choosing from love, taking and treading the path of love, what I call the high road, that doesn't make you everyone's yes person. And I learned this
no,
lesson when I had
no.
a family member that often would ring and ask for money. And I'd always feel bad when I had to say no because I knew it didn't support them. Because in a way, when I kept giving them money, I was actually enabling their problem, their addiction to buying more and having more stuff. And the last time they did it, I didn't know what to say, yes or no. And then I said, what would love do, be, or say here? Let me repeat that. You may like to write that down because I use this one often. When in doubt ever of what love would do, be, or say, just ask, what would love do, be, or say here or to this person or in this situation? And then just wait a moment. And then I went about my day, had a meditation in the afternoon, and I happened to just come out of that meditation knowing what love would do, be, or say in this exact situation. And it was to say no. Because that, in that moment, was the most loving thing. Because that was me choosing to stop enabling her problem, which gives her the opportunity and the choice, seeing that's the key word for today's show, the choice to choose differently, to choose a different path, to choose to show up differently.
Well, but it's also a greater choice in love because we know that it's the highest answer, but it also lets us be okay with it because I know a lot of people make the right choice, but then suffer. Oh, I didn't give that person money, or I didn't do that thing that I know is bad for them, but it is what we wanted, or sorry, is what they wanted. And somehow we end up carrying this feeling that because we didn't choose the choice that makes them happy, that we don't feel good anymore. And that robs us of our integrity and our humanity and our dignity and them too if we give in and choose the wrong thing. So knowing that when we make that choice it's made from love, it means that we can make the choice from that place of love and move on confidently with no guilt, with no regret, with no reprehension because we know it's the right choice and it was not made for false reasons. It's powerful.
Exactly. And I'm sitting having it in a chuckle because as you were saying that early on, Spirit has a great sense of humor and it was just coming through saying over and over, just get over it. In other words, when you ask that question of what would love do, be, or say here right now, and then you wait a moment, and then you understand that that which is a truth for you and the right thing to do will always feel light and right. And when you get some sort of response, some answer, some knowing, some awareness of what the next steps are, what the next thing is to say or do or choice to make, then when you're doing that from that love and it's the spirit, the universe, whatever you want to call that, that gives you that awareness, how could it ever be the wrong thing even if the answer is no? That was the get over it. Sometimes the most loving thing is no, and it's the best choice to make. And how many of us are
And,
making unconscious choices just to add to that? Like not
and
even knowing we're making choices that aren't supporting us because we're doing it at an unconscious level. Probably at least 80% of the population.
it's interesting though, sometimes the loving choice, the right choice, doesn't feel light. And for the empaths on the call, for the energetically sensitive souls, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
You know that you've made the right choice. You know you've chosen from love, and that choice still feels heavy.
It did when I had to make that choice to say no to that family member. It didn't feel
Yeah,
nice because I loved them and they always had the most amazing reason why they needed the money, and I
yeah,
just wanted to continually give it to them, and it just wasn't supporting them at all anymore.
yeah.
It was just enabling their problem. So yeah. So back to the topic of the show, choices that define our future and set us
Mm.
free. So the next sort of question is, how does this stuff like that we've been speaking about, sharing with you today, how does that set us free? I've got a topic choice point to talk about is when we have choice, we feel free, empowered and peaceful. Otherwise, the profound truth of our creativity is at odds. So, if you don't know if you're making the right choice, like if you ask that question and answer comes to you, and even if the answer is no and it doesn't feel good, there is some comfort and freedom and spaciousness in knowing,
Hmm.
still knowing that you made the right choice. And that's the bit that sets you free. That's the bit that gives you the spaciousness. And if you're feeling bad about it or it feels uncomfortable, that's always an excuse and a choice and a reason to go back to my number one basic tool, and that's loving your own heart. Because if you feel bad about that choice that you just made, that you know for a fact, because it feels light, is made in love, you deserve more love, never less.
Hmm.
And if the person
Yeah.
has a problem with your choice, they deserve more love, never less.
And that's a great point, because after a choice has been made, even if it's the right thing that supports our future, and many of us have to make the choice to go in a direction that maybe our friends or family or other loved ones, they don't they don't see and they don't understand, but we have to go that road. That's the right choice. And they they hurt for us, even though we know it's the right choice. And they may even get very angry. And I always remember that when I'm making those choices, that they don't it's not for them sometimes to understand. They may not, but I just have to love them more. In fact, because they can't see the rightness of that choice, I just have to have that much more love for them. And I think a lot of people have experienced that, especially when you have that connection to the energy. You feel how much turmoil it creates in them,
Mm-hmm.
and yet you know it's right.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And while action has an effect that is seen immediately, our choice to love is first unseen and
Yeah.
builds a new structure over time. That's kind of what we've been speaking about. And doing this and making these empowered choices that
Hmm.
support ourselves. And what supports us, by the way, supports the whole collective of humanity,
Yeah.
especially if the choices are made from that loving space. And it builds, it's like a muscle. Anything we change and do differently is like a muscle, and we need to work it out for it to build strength, to support us further and to support us more. It's like my choice to soften my big in your face personality and learn to love my own heart. It wasn't an easy choice in the beginning, even though I knew it was the right one. Sometimes it felt outright stupid because people would laugh at me or look at me funny, and I'm very comfortable with that now. And it's such a strong muscle that not only can I love my own heart and my voice changes immediately to that expansive love of the all there is. I love you. I can look a stranger in the eye, each and every one of you, which aren't really strangers, you're just family I haven't met yet, just so we're clear. I love you. I love you. And this is that expansive love that I'm speaking of. It feels warm. And I'm sure each and every one of us have had even just a little moment where we've experienced what that expansive love of the all there is feels like, even just for a millisecond, which feels like a lifetime. That you felt connected and loved, and in that moment when you feel that, you feel like anything is possible. You can do anything, be anything. The world is on the right track. So savor those moments. And this is about experiencing more of those. And the more we go down this path of choosing the path of love, which is what supports not only ourselves, but all of us. And we have the beautiful Josephine that has said, you are both saying the truest words. Oh my goodness. Oh, Josephine, how sweet are you? You can come home for dinner. We're having a roast lamb for dinner. You're welcome, Josephine. I live in Australia though. I'm looking forward to teleporting, right? And while we're having a moment, and if anyone has any questions, please pop them in the comments below. I do swing back even after the show, so even if you wrote the questions in the replay, I'm very happy to answer. I love to answer questions. Yes, and I'd like to take this opportunity to, if we share this with YouTube as well. So what helps us share the message of love and further the message of love heals humanity is for you to press subscribe and the bell button so that you are notified with our new uploads, and make comments. That helps us get the message further out into the world. And on Facebook, I don't know, there's some way of doing that. Just haven't worked it out yet. That said, though, an event is created with everyone. So on the page, Positive Happy Life with Serenity, you can go to the events tab and you can see all the upcoming events that have already been scheduled. So that's just as good. Press say you're interested or you're going, and then you should get notified. I know I do. So yes, I'd like to and love, just to finish off because we're getting close to the end of the show. Another talking point I've got here is love is always a choice. It can never be forced. Only the external realm succumbs to force. So when even though the other person, when you say no, as the example we gave earlier in the show, it might feel forceful to you, but it's not. You can say no with love. And there are even ways, if you're uncomfortable saying no, and I know I was in the beginning, until I worked the muscle of boundaries, which I have now, there are ways of saying no without actually saying no. And this again is everything is a choice. This is also a choice that I say, thank you for that most amazing opportunity to loan you money and to support you, though that doesn't work for me right now. That's actually saying no without actually saying no. Some version of that. I always like gratitude, so I go to gratitude. Thank you for that wonderful opportunity to do your housework for you that you asked me to do, or help you move, or I'd love to support, but that doesn't work for me this week. And by saying it that way, it also doesn't close the door for them to ask for your help sometime in the future. It always leaves the door open. But for this instance and for that ask that you just asked, and it's another way of saying thank you for throwing me your hot potato. And I know I take it as a huge compliment, because I know that you know that I can handle that. And I can do that. And I've saved money even if I don't have much money. Do you know? That's why they're asking me, because they know I'm a superwoman and I can do that. So why would I want to start with less than gratitude? And if I'm uncomfortable saying no, just say that doesn't work for me. Thank you though. I hope that supports somebody. Josephine has something else to share. She says, thank you very much for inviting me. I live in Delray Beach, Florida. I have dinner with my children. We're having dinner here and it's roast lamb, all the trimmings, and I'm in Brisbane, Queensland, Australia. Where is everybody? Let me know in the comments. I love knowing how far we reach on our show around the world. And another talking point I have here is our courage to love is an inner experience. And that's kind of what we've been speaking about. This choice to love, peace on earth is an inside job. And it only takes one of us, because there's only one, right? It only takes one of us to make that choice. That said, though, the caveat there is it's each and every one of us that is here to make that choice that they are the one.
Mm-hmm.
I am the one. So why would I want to show up anything less than loving and supportive? And, words are powerful. They can cut you deeper than a sword. I can cut your arm with a sword. I can chop your finger off and you can still function, and they can even sew that on these days. I can use words that cut deeper than that and will harm you for life. Understanding the power of words, why would we make a choice other than the one that lovingly supports everyone to shine and to share their magnificence and to love their own heart more, to feel more instead of less?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
Oh, God bless you, Josephine. She says, it's beautiful just to hear the way you talk. Makes me feel good. Thank you. Aww. Just you showing up, Josephine, makes me feel good. And just for you, my sweet friend, I love you. And there is only one heart, so really, while I said that to Josephine, I said that to everyone. Inverted one heart. See if I've got any, yes, we are releasing fear that keeps us doubting, stagnant, or blaming. We are opening a deep understanding of our capability and the support available in multiple ways. This is pretty much a good ending for what the topic of the show, because I think that that's what it's all about. It's about supporting ourselves. And for me, everything I do, everything I say, everything I choose, for me is about the only goal I have in life, like my number one goal, which is attached to my identity, is peace on earth. There are many words for that: Christ consciousness, planetary ascension, unity, peace on earth. And how many of, raise your hand in some way, shape or form, or a comment, if that isn't really your number one goal, is for peace on earth, for we energetically sensitive souls, for this harmony, this peace. Even though that I am a strong seeker of that, I never avoid the negative. I do my best to keep it out of my energy bubble, but if I have to walk through hell and broken glass to get to the other side of that, I have big girl panties, happy to pull them up and walk through that. And that said, when you do that stuff, you're never alone. I am here, Robert is here.
Yeah.
The Love Heals Humanity movement is here. And you can see at the bottom there, we have a group where you can join us at the Love Heals Humanity. It's written on the bottom of the screen for the show. And before we wind up, I'd like to just quickly touch upon and mention that Robert and I have been putting together a course on soulmates for 6 weeks, online course, and we'd love you to, if something like that interests you, so that you receive a deep dive discount when we do release a course. Please, we'd love to invite you to put your name down on the VIP waitlist for that. And do you have anything else you'd like to share, or does anyone have any further questions? Because we're moving into the affirmations portion of the show and the little bit of healing that I do with the energy ball that I created a little earlier.
Little bit. Way to undersell it.
I don't want to shove stuff in people's face.
As I know that, but as someone who gets to spend, a lot of time with you, the power of those healing moments far transcends a little bit.
Yeah, I'm humble. What can I say? Humility, happy to be vulnerable, happy to be humble. Yes, powerful healing moment. Yes, so let me just bring up the affirmations that I chose in advance. That's up above. Yes, here they are. Okay, so I'd like to invite everybody to close your eyes and be aware of your energy field and where the ends of that feel for you, and expand your energy out into the universes and beyond. And in a moment, there's a feather in your mind's eye, taking us out of our heads and down into our hearts. The feather will drop gently down down, down, landing gently in the sacred space of your heart. I courageously choose to honor my love within. I cultivate peace within, so my choices never come from fear. What I create from love supports the growth of more love. I seek a win-win solution, even if it comes in stages over time. I release expectations and keep taking small steps forward. I find a perspective of possible improvement that I believe. Today, I choose to make choices that support my well-being. I always have the power to choose the most optimistic outlook. Today, I choose to accept only those beliefs which empower my life. Today, I choose to be cheerful regardless of other circumstances. I choose to experience life calmly and peacefully. And I'm just going to call up and create this energy ball so I can share it with you. But I invite you to share with the energy ball all your wishes and desires and choices you'd like to have made differently and to do differently, and the healing of this ball will shift the energy with those. Okay, energy's dissipating, and that will continue to grow because I've just put it on like a macro to go until it's done. Are you ready to receive? On the count of 3, my beautiful friend. 1, 2, 3. That's right, landing right there, gently in the sacred space of your heart. And that would be the end of the show. What is the topic of next week's show, Robert? Robert.
I'm just waiting for the AC to cycle down. Next week, we have another super exciting topic. I know I say this all the time because to follow up choices, we are talking about opening the doorway to your sacred soulmate connection. And that is so near and dear to my heart, and I know to yours as well. And I know we were just talking about the soulmate course that we're putting together, and you know, this is all connected to that same thing. This is all connected to that same space. So I'm really excited for next week's show.
And I'd like to thank those that showed up live and made a comment. John Irwin, Josephine, and Ron. Thank you for showing up live. And until next week. Same bat time, same bat show. It's a different time for me actually because my time zone doesn't change, but you all changed your time zones. So same bat time, same bat channel. And there's no bats, but they're beautiful things too, right? I can't help it. My age group, right? I watched Batman. What can I say? How many of you watched Batman as a kid? I'm pretty certain quite a few of you. I look forward to seeing how many of you watched Batman in the comments below. Until next week. Bye.